It's your boy D. We're back with another episode of Outside the Ring. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about why Survivor Series 2025 did not work. Why it was not that good of a PLE. Survivor Series 2025 was John Cena's last PLE. And this PLE, in my opinion, was not good. There were a lot of things that could have gone better, that probably should have gone better. And I'm going to share my thoughts on this in this episode of Outside the Ring. So, the first match of the night was the Women's Wargames match. Now, this match, probably one of the best on the cards. This was a 4-card match, and you had the two Wargames match, John Cena versus Dominic Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship, Stephanie Vaquer versus Nikki Bella for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship over on Raw. So this match opened up with the Women's Wargames match, which the two teams were. It was Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, AJ Lee, Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss on the babyface side versus the heel side of Becky Lynch, Asuka and Kairi Sane, the Kabuki Warriors, Nia Jax, and Lash Legend as the heels. So this match opened up the card in California. This was in Petco Stadium, or the home stadium of San Diego Padres. So this was the starting match. It was a good match. I liked it. I liked how they worked the choreograph. I like how everybody stepped up. They did what they needed to do. They didn't try to go above and beyond. They just did their job to the best that they could. And I think it's matches like this and the people who participate and do what they're supposed to do end up being the better matches. It's not like one person's trying to stand out. It's not like, let's say, AJ Lee was trying to be the star, take everybody out. No, AJ Lee came in, she did her part, Rhea did her part, Io did her part, Becky did her part. Everybody did their part, and I think that's why this match ended up being so good, which is one of the few positives that I would have to bring up on this card. Was the Women's Wargames match was good. I liked the ending. I liked how everybody hit their iconic, whether it was their finisher, signature, Io Sky jumping off the Wargames cage with the trash can. And so I like how everybody at the end got to do one of their things that they do. Gonna do a move, finisher, jumping, like submission. Everybody was able to do what, like, one of their iconic moves for the ending. In the ending, they had AJ Lee hit the Widow's Bite on Becky Lynch, and Becky Lynch tapped out. So the babyface team ultimately got the win to open up Survivor Series, and that was probably one of the brightest moments on this card. So the next match on the card was John Cena versus Dominic Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship, and this was a good match. Good match. You know, wasn't that long of a match, but they made it work with the time that they were given. Ultimately, this match was as expected. John Cena was the IC title. He just became a Grand Slam champion on Raw, so that's why he was the champion, because he hadn't won the Intercontinental Championship yet. I don't get it. You win 17 world titles, but not one Intercontinental title. But that is what it is. They gave the fans what they wanted. So this match, it was good. The return of Liv Morgan. She came back, hit a low blow on Dominic, jumped on John Cena, gave him a hug, then turned around and gave John Cena a low blow, hit him with the title. Dominic would then hit a frog splash. This is after Dominic faked the injury. Actually, early in the match, he was on the outside, and he jumped to do a Hurricane Rana on Cena. Cena called him, and he gave him a powerbomb, and Mysterio faked like he was hurt. Judgment Day came down, tried to beat up John Cena. Didn't work, so that's how Liv Morgan returned. That's how we got to the point of the low blows. Dominic would hit a frog splash to win back his IC title, defeating Cena in his last PLE before John Cena would lose again a Saturday night main event in his retirement match against Kunta. So we're 2 matches in, 2 not necessarily good matches. No, 2 decent matches. Not saying that they weren't good, because everybody did their best, but it could have been a little bit better. So the next match on the card was Stephanie Vaquer versus Nikki Bella for the title. And this was at a time where I wasn't watching Raw, where I wasn't watching Raw every week. I would tune in every now and then, but Apparently, this was a good rivalry, decent rivalry. Like I said, this was before I started watching full time again. This is when I would only really watch PLEs. But this match, it's not like it was the best match. It's not like it was the best match. I personally have it being third. I don't have it being like the best. I have it being the second worst. I just personally didn't like it. And some people like it, some people don't. I'm one of the people who don't. I also just didn't know the full story behind it, so I didn't know like what to expect. But it ultimately wasn't that bad of a match, just not one that I liked. And then the last card on the match was the men's Wargames match. And this match was the Vision, Braun Breaker, Brock Lesnar, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, and hold up. It was Logan Paul, Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, Brock Lesnar, and it might have been Drew McIntyre. I'm just trying to think off the top of the head. Yeah. I'm like 99% sure Drew McIntyre was in it. Yeah, he was, because that made it 5. Versus the Bloodline, but they weren't the Bloodline. It was just Roman, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes as the baby faces. And this match had one of the biggest build-ups, which I actually freaking loved the build-up to this match. It was good. You had freaking Brock Lesnar returning, won in Cena's last Raw, and ended with a brawl. Brock Lesnar came, cleaned up the house. Roman Reigns came back, cleaned up the house. So the build up to this match, really good. I would say almost flawlessly executed, but then the execution of the match was poorly executed. When it really could, it should be. There was a good build up, it was a good match. Good build up should lead to a good match, and it ultimately didn't, in my opinion. And I think that just kind of sucks that a match had such a good build up for it not to elevate to the level of success that it should have. But it ultimately, I can't even say it ultimately wasn't that bad of a match. I don't like the concept of war games, You give it this build up of every one team hates the other team, and it's just one entrance at a time. And usually war games goes like this, whoever has the advantage, their person, they're gonna get beat up, and then the second person comes in. Now it's a 2-on-1. Then it comes a 2-on-2, 3-on-2, and ultimately the team that has the advantage usually does good things until it's time for the end, where it's everybody versus everybody. You also can't go for like pins and submissions until it's 5-on-5, 4-on-4, and that's just one thing that I personally don't really like about war games. With the 5-on-5 elimination style, you were able to, you know, you were able to see great moments. Dolph Ziggler's comeback, NXT winning Survivor Series. Like, when have you seen that during war games? You haven't, because it hasn't. War games ultimately just does not work as a PLE. I was about to say a pay-per-view, but they're called PLEs. It just doesn't work. I personally would like to see them go back to the tag matches, have it be SmackDown versus Raw versus NXT, to see which brand is actually the best in the WWE. And if that happens, I genuinely think WWE would be more successful when it comes to Survivor Series and when it comes to that November paper PLE. Those are just my thoughts on it. I'm your boy D. This is going to end the first segment of this episode on why Survivor Series War Games does not work in 2025. Alright, so for our second segment, we're going to be talking about John Cena's last match in that entire PLE of Saturday night's main event. I don't know what just happened there. My voice just went away. Talking about Saturday night's main event. So, this Saturday night main event was pretty much all about John Cena. It was Cena send-off, and this Saturday night's main event, 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10 to 10 out of 10. Every single match on this card was good. It was good. I liked it, and I personally think that this right here might have been John Cena's best PLE out of his retirement tour. Out of the Royal Rumble, the Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2, SummerSlam Night 1, Night 2, Night of Champions, Crown Jewel. What else was in there? War Games and Saturday Night's main event. So this one was the best, and let's break it down. So the first match that we had was Cody Rhodes versus Obafemi in a champion versus champion match. No titles were on the line, just a exhibition match between the best, between current, the future, the best of their respective brand, of the best in SmackDown versus the best in Raw, not Raw, versus the best in NXT. And this match was good for the time that it had. Well, it worked because you had this giant, the ruler, Obafemi, tall, strong guy, and then you had Cody Rhodes, who's been the quote unquote underdog his whole career. He's not as tall as Femi. He's gonna have to fight like an uphill battle. So I like what they were doing with the match, and then everybody knew the ending to the match. Drew McIntyre came in and hit a Claymore, started beating down Cody because they were building up a feud for a match that wouldn't even happen for 3-4 weeks after it. That was dumb. Dumb decision. I personally would like to see Cody have put Oba over in this match. Whether that's him taking a pin, whether that's him being counted out. I would have liked to see Oba win this match, start to get put over. Everybody from the crowd loved it. And he's now on the main roster. Or at least he's getting that call up to the main roster as he vacated the NXT title after New Year's Evil. But I didn't like the ending of a good match, and I don't know, man. They try to build up the feud with Cody and McIntyre too much. Like, they try too hard. They should have just let Drew and Cody do what they do. They're two of the best. They know what works with the fans. They've seen Drew as a heel. They've seen Drew be booed. They've seen him be cheered. They know what works and what doesn't work. And this, I personally don't think worked, in my opinion. Like I said, I would have loved to see Oba get over in this match. That didn't happen. But he did end up getting his lick back on Drew McIntyre. Got face to face. Oba said, "What are you doing?" McIntyre shoved him. Oba shoved him. Cody hit a Cody cutter on McIntyre, and then Oba hit his choke slam on Drew. And the two champions men showed a sign of respect, shared a handshake in the middle of the ring. And then our second match was up between Sol Ruca and Bayley. Sol Ruca was with Zaira from NXT, and Bayley was with Lyra Valkyria from Raw. And now this was a good match. During this match was when I actually was doing something, so I didn't fully pay attention to it. But it definitely got my eyes to follow it. Young talent versus older talent. I really think that's just the theme of this PLE, is older talent versus new talent. Because there are a lot of people from NXT on this card. Obafemi, Sol Ruca, my apologies, the young OG, Javon Evans, Leon Slater, Gunther. Well, Gunther's not from NXT, but those four superstars right there are all from NXT, TNA. And I really like that. This was the idea. Old versus new. Future versus past. And it worked. So this match was a good match. I think I saw one of the cleanest finishers I've seen in a while. I don't really watch NXT. I just watch some of it, but not all the time. So I hadn't seen Sol Ruca in a match before. But when I tell you I might have seen the cleanest finisher. It was when she does like her springboard. Well, I don't know if it's a springboard, but she goes up to the top rope and she does the front flip cutter. I saw that. I said, "Oh my goodness, that's so clean." Cause it's a smooth move. It's not like a spear. It's not like the Rose Plant. No, like it takes both people. She has to make sure that she gets the distance, and then her opponent has to make sure that they're able to sell it at a high quality rate. Like make sure they can do it like have a good sell, because if you have a weak sell, it looks going to look like a weak move. But that was the second match on the card. Now the third match was the best match on the card. Hands down, best match on the card. This once again was a 4 PLE card for the TNA World Impact Champion. So going into this match, you knew it was going to be a banger. But then again, you also knew who was going to win. They didn't call Javon and Leon up at the time. Leon still being a TNA champion. He's not going to have another title on top of that. So you ultimately knew who was going to win the match. but it's still one of those matches where you're like, okay, I don't care who wins. I just want to watch it because I know it's going to be a good match. And it was a good match. Everybody stepped up into their roles, did their part. They made it enjoyable with knowing the outcome and what it was probably going to be. So being able to do that, especially with Javon Evans and Leon Slater being in their early 20s, no older than 25, stepping up and putting on a great match on a great PLE and making it one of the memorable matches. Ultimately, Styles and Lee would pick up the win as expected via pinfall, but it was nice to see something different. It wasn't like it was going to be AJ Styles and Dragon Lee versus Motor City Machine Guns. Nah, they took two high-flying, great young talents, and they threw them together, and they stepped up, and they worked well as tag team. I really liked this match. I really enjoyed this match, and I definitely have gone back and watched this match, 2, 3 times already. And I'm probably going to do that more. I'm going to just go back and watch a good match, like, as much as I can, just because it was such a good match. Like, that's something I want to watch often. I love watching great wrestling. In my opinion, this was great wrestling. This was a great match. Now, the final match on the card, and the match that received the most hate on this PLE, John Cena versus Gunther. John Cena's final match in the WWE. So, Gunther won the last time his now tournament. He beat LA Knight in the finals as expected. You knew it was going to be Gunther or Jey Uso. That's just what it was going to be. There was no chance it was going to be Solo Sikoa. We already had Solo versus Cena, which was a squash match for some reason. I don't know why. I guess Solo was supposed to be the big bad and four-shot at the time. But anyways, this match received so much hate, but this match was good. Yes, this match was good. This match gave us Super Cena at times. This match showed no matter what Cena did, he just couldn't put away Gunther. Putting him through tables, super AAs off the top rope, AA after AA, STFs. Michael Cole even changed it to the STFU, its former name. All these things that John did to try to put Gunther away, but none of it worked. And people did not like the ending, which in my opinion was poetic. It was what it needed to be. So John Cena, after getting beat down, battered, bruised, giving the work to Gunther, Gunther being beaten, battered, bruised, both of these men being hurt. It ultimately ended with Gunther putting John Cena in the sleeper hold, and John Cena tapped. John Cena essentially, quote unquote, gave up. He did not give up. John Cena did everything in his power to beat Gunther, and no matter what he did, it just did not work. He couldn't put him away, he couldn't get the pinfall, couldn't get him to tap out or fade. So this match essentially gave everything that John Cena's worked for, becoming this icon, Super Cena, and showing that one man who could out-survive it could ultimately make John Cena essentially give up by tapping out. So the idea that Gunther is the man to have conquered John Cena, I like. And I also like how they didn't just move on from it. Like, after Gunther beat John Cena, they let him brag backstage on Raw, talk to, who was it? It was R-Truth. It was somebody else. I don't remember who. But they made sure that it wasn't just a runaway, like, yeah, I beat John Cena, so what, big deal. No, they actually had him, be a jerk about it, be a little a-hole, actually show that he is this quote-unquote villain when Gunther's really just a good heel. That's what his character best portrays, is a heel. He's not a babyface character. He never has been. Even in NXT UK, Gunther's always just been built to be a heel. Whether it was Walter, whether it was Gunther. He has a heel persona, and therefore he works his best as a heel. Those are some of my thoughts on Saturday night's main event. It's nice to see how everything went along a little bit after a month past this, with it being January. This happened in December. Ultimately, it was sad to see the GOAT, John Cena, go, but I love the poetic ending on how no matter what he did, he couldn't beat Gunther, and Gunther ultimately made John Cena tap out. It's an ending that receives a lot of backlash and a lot of mixed feelings, and I get why, but I also don't think people fully understand that the idea that no matter what Cena did, he wasn't going to win the match. And a lot of people expected him to lose, but they were thinking, maybe a pinfall, maybe disqualification, like by accident, maybe he went to kick Gunther in the stomach, but Gunther played it off like he got a low blow. I don't think a lot of people were expecting a tap. I like the decision of a tap. I also like the decision of having the future being put over the older style. I'm your boy D. Those are some of my thoughts on Saturday night's main event and why War Games in 2025 did not work. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Answer the poll on what the next episode should be about. What that next episode should be about. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.